Hi, welcome to a new episode of Sportsy. Let's talk sports. Today we have with us Prantik Mazumdar, an entrepreneur, a venture investor, and somebody who acts as a digital transformation catalyst in an organization to drive sustainable change and impact. Prantik, a avid cricketer, after pursuing his major in computer engineering, a minor in technopreneurship from the National University of Singapore, has kickstarted his career with Singapore government, and from there went on to make a great journey in entrepreneurship. He started his entrepreneurial journey with Happy Marketer in 2011 and spent a decade building and scaling one of the best and most awarded independent digital marketing services firm in the region. In February 2019, he had a successful exit when Happy Marketer was sold to American digital enterprise called Merkle, which is a part of Dentsu International. Currently, he's serving as a managing director of CXM Group at Dentsu Singapore. He's a regular columnist with Marketing Magazine, Campaign Asia, Economic Times, Business Times on all things digital transformation and marketing, and has trained over 500 enterprises in the region on the subject. 2015, he was recognized as one of the top 50 most influential marketers in the world. Apart from his corporate role, he's an active angel investor, a venture capitalist, a mentor, advisor, and speaker to organizations like Quest Venture, Thai Singapore, NUS Angel Ventures, and many more. So please welcome Happy Marketer, MD CXM Group, Dentsu Singapore, Prantik Mazumdar. Hi Prantik, it is great to have you on our platform Sportsy. Let's talk sports.
Thank you so much, Sid. It's a pleasure to be here. I've seen some of the work that you've been doing, and it's always great to sort of connect with sports enthusiasts. People look at multi-sport from the lens of business and marketing as well. And well, good to connect with someone who lives in Pune as well.
Yes, and that is, and again, as we just spoke about the Pune connection and the sports connection, as well as the marketing, entrepreneurship, I think there's a big journey with Prantik that we're going to hear. A lot of our viewers and listeners are the MBA students. A lot of them want to make a career in sports, career in marketing, and all those things. I think, guys, we have somebody who is a great marketer. Just to give a quick background, Prantik is an entrepreneur, a venture investor, act as a digital transformation catalyst in organizations to drive sustainable change and impact. I think that is very important. One of the reasons that he is here, that we got to host him, is not only about his entrepreneurial side or the marketing side. He's been an avid cricketer. I think he has been a cricketer while growing up. So, and that has, we're going to hear, I have read somewhere, but we're going to hear the stories about how the sport has impacted his journey, being an entrepreneur and being a person who is, I think, 40 under 40 and all those things, tags which are there with you, Prantik. So looking forward to this chat with you.
Absolutely. I'm very, very happy to be here. And, it's always sort of good to sort of speak and learn as part of the process, because it's a good discovery process for myself. And, the more I connect and more I listen and learn, that's what the journey is all about, right? You meet people, you share ideas and notes, and you exchange thoughts, and you never know what this leads to.
Exactly. So Prantik, on that note, when you said the journey is about learning and implementing that, so I think the first question that comes, you as an early life as a cricketer, I think there are a lot of learnings, small things, and that shaped your life. So for a typical a business enthusiast or somebody who wants to be an entrepreneur, these are the small things that you grow up with. So how do you think that you can link those things as a cricketer while growing up and taking it ahead into your entrepreneurial life?
Absolutely. I mean, there's just so much to sort of talk about that. But I'll start, my cricketing journey. Obviously, as I was telling you, I grew up in Pune, in an area called Vishrantwadi, where I'm sure thousands and millions of kids in India, you start playing cricket on the streets, in the car park of your building. And I was very lucky at some point. I think it got formalized. So I went to a school called St. Vincent's, and prior to that, the store in Camp area. But there was no formal cricket in those schools. And at best we used to get to play so hockey was quite big. So I think my proper school cricket started with playing cricket with hockey sticks during lunch breaks. St. Vincent's, whoever might have been to the campus, a brilliant ground. So we were always very upset that soccer is big, hockey is big, but cricket is not there. But I got my first break, when my parents saw the interest and potential, and they put me into this club called PYC, Pune Youth Club. And wonderful cricketing culture in Pune, where you typically either Pune Club, Deccan Gymkhana, PYC. So I went for the summer camp, early in the morning. My uncle would drop me there, and then I did well. I really enjoyed, and that sort of started the journey there. And I think a few things, and from that period on till today, cricket, sports overall, but cricket specifically is very, very close to my life. Whether it's playing the sport at school, college, traveling from in Singapore, I did my college, and as part of the cricketing team, we would travel to Australia, play cricket there. You make friends. But the more I look back and reflect, two or three things that really stand out, and how you can sort of link to your question, link it to your professional life as a manager, as an entrepreneur, as a business leader. I'll start with the element of humility in failure. We talk about sports, we talk about winning, we talk about championships, but I think sports, and I'll obviously use cricket because that's something I'm so connected to and I play and I've observed, is there is nothing like sports sort of being a great leveler. You score a century, next day you start from zero again, and that is so important, because to learn how to not just handle failure, but as I say, to be a gracious loser. There is a negative connotation to the term loser, but to me it's very, very important. How do you react to a loss? How do you, as an individual, as a leader, as a teammate, how do you handle that? How do you accept? Firstly, I think, to me, I'll talk about that, right, as being a humble and a gracious loser, I think is very critical, because I think there's a lot being said that nothing like learning from losing, because when you're succeeding, I read a quote somewhere from Peter Drucker recently saying that uh, when you succeed, sometimes over time, success sort of overshadows the lessons of what led you to succeed, right? It sort of obsoletes the behaviors that led to success. Bill Gates talks about that you don't learn from success, you'll only learn from failures. So that is something, the beauty of sport, that you've done well, whether you're a Kohli who's probably right now going through a lean patch, whether you're a Sachin, whether
Yeah.
you're Shreyas Iyer, doesn't matter who you are, you start from zero. And that's what every good coach tells you, right? You take your stance, or in fact, even when you score a century, they tell you take your stance again, because it's a fresh new ball, you could get out, right? So that's one. The other is about risk management, right? Because when you're playing a team sport, it is so important to be aware of the external conditions. Today when you're playing competitive cricket, there you have access to data. You are looking at weather forecast, assuming, for example, in Singapore, when we play cricket, it's a tropical country, it's always a good chance to
Yeah.
for it to sort of rain. And so there's someone in the team, whether the coach, manager, or a player, because to be honest, in all my years of cricket, I still struggle to understand the Duckworth-Lewis method, right? So I don't try and use my brain there. I'm sort of referring to that table. That, boss, is it, what should I be doing, right? So risk management drives so much of your strategy planning, right? And I think one of the things to do is, again, if you want to win, they say in business or in sport, you need to learn to know how to cut your losses. You need to learn to know how to lose less. Even in the world of investing, they say that the folks like Warren Buffett over lifetime, they also know the power of compounding, which is true in sport. How do you keep practicing so that your skill sets compound? But also, how do you cut your losses? How do you minimize your risk? Same way, right? In cricket, I love that analogy, because suddenly you're playing well, but at the same time, and as they say in Test cricket, as much as you can drive a cover drive or punch the ball, you need to know what to leave.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of cricket. You need to know, it is equally important to know what to leave, right?
Correct.
And that is risk management to me. So in business, you don't want to chase every opportunity. If it's going through a lean period, sometimes, I think of, what, I've got to be like a Dravid. I've got to just stay the course this year. This year looks tough. Let me survive. It's a long game, right? So risk management, driving strategy, I think is the second lesson that I learned. And the third is, it's at the end of the day, if you look at sport, it is also about having fun through the process. Whether it's the like of Dhoni, whether it's Pujara, they speak so much, or obviously Sachin as well, who speak so much about the process and sort of maximizing what's in your control. I think one thing that I've learned from cricket is, or my coaches is, you can and you should only focus on what's in your control, which is the process, right? Any good athlete, whether it's tennis, whether it's a Nadal, whether it's Federer, it is, yes, God's given you some element of talent. One may be blessed with a little bit of infrastructure. You have the, you have the kit, you have the Recently I watched that movie. I'm sure some of you may have watched, which is the Kaun Hai Praveen Tambe. That
Correct.
also sort of shows you that tenacity and focusing on your process and having faith on that. Yes, not everyone will play Ranji or international, but you know what? You aim big and you focus on the process. Maybe you will play Ranji, maybe you will be in a KKR squad, but that's massive, right? Or maybe like me, you'll just end up playing club cricket in Singapore, but uh, it is just important to sort of have faith in you and focus on the process, because if you do that, I think you're just maximizing your chance, right? So in summary, I'll talk about in reverse that focus on what's in your control and the process. Look at risk management. Where can you cut losses and sort of leave the good ball? The first hour of the day, let that go, and then you will sort of milk the cash cow. And as we started speaking about earlier, is you've got to sort of again, right? So those are the fundamental lessons that, if you sort of focus on what's in your control, manage your risks, I think
Yeah.
that will go a long way.
Yeah, I think you said something really well. It's about learning from the losses. Being a
Yeah,
gracious loser is something very,
yeah,
very crucial in the whole thing. And I think that the new generation which is coming up with so much of aggression, or at the same time, a lot of information at their fingertips. I think it's something that very need to understand, because at the end of the day, it is the mental toughness or mental conditioning is being considered in every industry. And people are
yeah,
quitting jobs because they can't cope up with the stress, or they are quitting sports because they can't cope up with the demands. And I think that's where graciously learning, accepting the loss, and taking the next step, I think that is something very crucial. And I think you touched it pretty well. And it's not only for the MBA lesson, I think it is something that can be used on the ground by the athletes while looking at their uh, career. So
yeah.
just drifting into the professional journey that you have had beyond Avid cricketer, is I'm sure that with the Happy Marketer as a company which you founded, and then had a great journey with that, and before getting that into the, I think, Merkle, which is Dentsu, and currently you being the MD of Dentsu in Singapore, heading the marketing side and strategy side of it. So in all those things, I'm sure Dentsu being a global leader, you have seen a lot of sports marketing that has happened over the years. So as a happy marketeer and a part of Dentsu, how do you think the sports marketing has evolved over the year?
Yeah, that's a great question. Over my 15, 20 years in the marketing and business strategy, and, whether as Happy Marketer or, in fact, very few people know that when we started Happy Marketer, I, in parallel, also, given my love for sport, I'd also co-founded another sports venture called Game Changer Sports Venture with a sports lawyer out of Bangalore, very
Okay.
dear friend, Amrut. But unfortunately, that business didn't take off because it didn't get enough attention. Today, Amrut runs a very successful sports law practice. I moved on to Happy Marketer. I think, fundamentally what was growing up, obviously I was always playing sport, right? But as I sort of started looking at it from a business lens, first things first, I wanted to understand how does sports make money, right? So if you look at any sort of reports across, whether it's PwC, everyone, everywhere else, generally speaking, there are four broad ways of making money, right? There's gate revenues, there is advertising, there is sponsorship, and then there is merchandising. Generally, of course, today with esports coming in, you have subscription revenues. There's fantasy league gaming, there's betting, etc. That's sort of coming in. So to me, I think what's really evolved is fundamentally, if you look at any of these large, and again, I started studying non-cricketing sports because you look at the US, we were talking about it, whether it's Major League Baseball, Super Bowl, whether it's NBA, whether it's obviously EPL. What was fascinating for me is how do these different sports structures, how do they work, right? I think one fundamental shift that's happened is the reliance on gate revenues has gone down, right? And this is true also in the entertainment world, right? So recently, I had the good fortune of meeting Vishnu, who the maker of 83, the movie, and it was a very fun, candid conversation where he said, I told him, what, it was my first movie after the pandemic in Singapore, and it was amazing to see in Singapore people clapping, Indians, non-Indians, people had tears, and he very humbly said, by the way, guess what? The movie was a box office loss in India, and it really hurt me at one level. But then thereafter, he said, thankfully, I made enough money out of it. And I said, how does that work? He said, that's because of the digital era. through the OTT platforms, there's a minimum guarantee revenue that comes around. And so same thing I saw, I could relate to IPL during the lockdown or during the UAE, or when audiences are not allowed. The IPL could go ahead, but without audiences, they could still make money because of broadcast, right? The advertising, sponsorship, broadcast. So I think one fundamental shift that I'm seeing is because of digital. As much as I love to, go down and watch sports, but it's interesting that they don't have to rely on gate revenues, for making money, because today suddenly anyone and everyone can stream the sport, and through Hotstar or whatever. I think you can enjoy the sport. More people can enjoy. Hopefully, gate revenues can. I sometimes think maybe gate revenues can be made to be nearly free, so that a common man or woman can watch it, because the sport is not dependent on it, right? So that's one fundamental shift that I see. The other that I'm seeing is, of course, the digitization of various elements of sports. I think cricket is a great beneficiary in terms of technology, right? Be it umpiring, DRS. Of course, it's a controversial system, but any tech system takes time. So recently, I had a good fortune of having lunch with Simon Toppel in Singapore, and Simon's a great advocate of tech, but obviously used in a humane manner, used in a manner where it's augmenting as opposed to replacing human umpires, right? The technology is not there yet. So whether it's in data analytics to sort of help coaching, whether it is using data analytics to sort of spot talent, like what we have seen in the movie Moneyball with baseball. Today, that's entered soccer, that's entered cricket. So talent scouting, using it for your coaching analysis. I'm part of a very dear friend from Pune who played cricket for Maharashtra. He eventually captained Singapore, Chetan Suryavanshi, who's based here. He today runs Sports Kingdom, Cricket Kingdom. They're using technology, so he's a dear friend, and my son also goes to his coaching class. It's great to see how they're sort of using technology to sort of, educate parents. This is, again, not that I'm a big believer that I want to check and keep an eye on my son as long as he's having fun, but it's good to see, right? Hey, here's what he's playing well. Here's what his bowling action looks like. So I think coaching, talent management, and also, the other element is today, the reality is only a few players will play international cricket, right? But what's also happening thanks to digital tech, social media, is players are also getting a chance to showcase their talent, or showcase various aspects of their sporting career. Because not everyone can monetize it at the international or IPL level, but perhaps you can do it as a sports influencer. I'm part of a strategic advisor of a sports company called LetsTalkSports, along with Boria Majumdar and a few others. And one of our ambitions is, what we were talking earlier is, like when I realized that, I can't be a cricketer, let's say, when that sort of bubble bursted, I realized I'm not good enough. I also said, I want to build a career in sports. Now, sports marketing is one. But I also realized, when during my cricket tour to Australia from university, it was amazing that when I met the cricketers, they had a clear path that, okay, if not play for Australia or Sheffield Shield, I could be a sports nutritionist. I could be a sports analyst. I could be a sports, psychologist. I could be, so many different things, right? And these are young 18-year-olds. That is because the education system supported that. And today, one of the things at LetsTalkSports we really want to do is, one, at a college level or even at class 10, 11, 12, and you obviously would appreciate this, that there is so much of opportunity, but there is a lack of structure, there is a lack of pedagogy, and perhaps lack of trainers. And that if there's a Byju's in India teaching, whatever, class 11, 12, etc., why isn't there someone saying, how do you become a mental health coach in sports, right? We all know the importance of all that, but today that education leading to career options isn't there, right? And I'm hoping through various companies we can sort of change that, right? So, in summary, what's fundamentally changed is digital consumption of sport, using digital and data and tech to sort of talent scout and do the analytics part of it, whether in umpiring or whether in playing. And fundamentally, I really hope, I'm beginning to see that, but I really want to see sports leveraging digital and data to educate and create career paths beyond just playing, beyond just sports broadcast and marketing, but in psychography, nutrition, mental health, women in sports, the commercial aspects of sports. There is so much that sports can offer. And I hope there's more that can be done. And, hopefully folks like you and me, and hopefully many others who are so passionate about sports can sort of drive that change.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's you covered so many aspects. It actually became a mini masterclass about what people can look forward to. I think it was pretty good. And in the whole thing, yes, I have spoken to Chetan. I know Chetan very well. About he was in Pune. We spoke about the opening couple of academies with Rohit Sharma and all here. So we were talking the same thing, that how do we grow? How do we take the sports? Now there is a marketing of sports and marketing through sports, and how do you make a good mixture of all these things? Like IPL could survive, at the same time ISL could go behind the closed door, because as it is, nobody is coming and watching it in the stadium. So for them, at one location, they cut the losses of traveling across India, and I think
Yeah.
it was pretty good, and they could still sustain it. I think that these are the things. There was a positive out coming out of COVID. I think the digital transformation happened. I consider a company called Fanisco on fan engagement side. I think the whole the fan engagement side of sitting at home and still feeling the part of the community, I think that exploded, and that opened up a different opportunities for companies to earn money more than the physical revenue. I think these things really changed the sphere, and I think you covered that really well talking about it. So now. As a marketeer, you've been a great founder, and beyond that, after you've been an investor in a lot of startups. So, as an investor in startup, how do you decide which startup to invest in? Is it about the product? Is it about the team, or just a wow factor? What is that exactly you look for, or anybody looking to raise funds? I know the raising fund is not the right mandate to have a startup, but still that's going to be a part of your journey. So what exactly an investor is looking for when they're trying to invest money in something?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'll try my best to sort of, take some lessons from the world of sports. Right. At the end of the day, when I as an individual angel investor, uh, it again boils down to that element I spoke about, risk management, right? At the end of the day, as the asset class of angel investing is quite risky, because you're literally sort of investing or hoping to back a company at a very early stage. And just like a sports star or a cricketer, the cricketer or the sports star could be good, but there are so many external factors that could go wrong, and it's a long journey, right? So first and foremost, one has to agree and acknowledge that it's a very risky prospect, that whatever money you're putting, it's not coming back anytime soon. And if it does, great. Hopefully, it gives you a good return. But the risk is high; it may never come back, or even if it does, it comes back much later. So I think once you sort of do that, the next thing is, you can't. If one is looking to be an angel investor, before I come to the different parameters, you can't be just betting on one sports star. Again, given the risk, you've got to build a portfolio.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at sort of, it's like a team, right? If you or you're a coach, you are coaching hundreds of students, through a process. Maybe 5 or 10 of them will go on to the next level. Maybe one will hopefully potentially, play for India. And of course, if you're as great or as someone like Achrekar sir, maybe there'll be 3 to 5 players who sort of eventually go and play for the country. That's an outlier sort of a situation, right? But I think when you look at individual sort of startups, a few things that come to my mind in terms of risk management, right? I think I would even start with the what I call, a lot of people talk about the product market fit, but for me it's the founder problem fit. So if I meet a particular founder or founders, I really want to understand how do they define the problem statement before the product or the solution. What is the problem? How are they defining it? What is their emotional connect? I'm a big believer not in logic but in emotional. I am a believer that we are, we are emotional animals. We make decisions emotionally, but we can justify them rationally. And as a marketer, what am I doing? I'm showing you a marketing message to play to your emotions and to get you to take an action, right? That's the whole point of marketing, simply because we are emotional beings. And there, to me, how do they sort of classify the problem? What is their vision around that problem? What is their emotional connect or story? So when a Chetan, for example, tells me about Cricket Kingdom, I get it, because he's been through that from his childhood. He's emotionally vested, right? He's quite clear about the problem statement. So that's something that matters a lot to me, because you could be a great founder, but are you the right founder for that problem is a big question, right? Because I could be a great farmer, or I could be a great marketing CEO or a founder. But am I the right founder for sports? Maybe, maybe not. One has to judge that. Second is how big is that problem statement? It could be a great problem, but maybe it's a very local problem. Maybe it's a problem limited to the citizens of Pune. But is this globally applicable? So, for example, if someone's doing a startup in cricket, that's great. I know I need to know the market size because cricket is played, unfortunately, relatively far fewer countries than many other global sports. So, relatively speaking, if someone's targeting soccer or tennis, for example, the viewership or the participation could be much higher. So, the an approximation of the dollar value of the market size is critical, right? So, those are certain early questions. Then I would also look at the chemistry between the founders because to me, I think it matters a lot because if the founders are right, if there's good chemistry between them, if there is, for example, there are many founders who can be quite greedy, saying, I'm the major founder, I keep 90%, the other two get 2%, 5%. That's a bit of a red flag because, there isn't much skin in the game for the smaller founders. There is enough reason for them to leave, right? Also, I like founders who want to sort of create a platform to create jobs, to do something big and good, and to share the wealth, right? So, for example, if founders don't keep enough ESOPs, that's a red flag because how will you attract talent? Because in startups, people are not joining for good salary because typically you're unable to pay great salary upfront. But are you willing to sort of, because if people have skin in the game, then you're participating in the team sport, right?
Correct.
There is enough skin in the game. So that's something I sort of look at. Are they looking to sort of create a team, a great, vibrant culture, right? And then, of course, I look into eventually what is the solution or the framework of the solution that they sort of come up with. And is there the product market fit? Are there customers willing to try it out? Are there customers willing to pay, open their wallets and pay for it? Are they, in fact, I don't want too many customers. I'm happy if there are 2 customers, but they're buying again and again. So if I rather look at recurring revenue than 10 customers buying one time and not buying again, right? So you want to see that stickiness, you want to see that recurring revenue coming in. So these are a few aspects that I would look at, starting with the founder, their passion and clarity for the problem statement. How large and universal is that problem statement? And then what's the camaraderie and culture? Like even, at the founders, I like founders who are stuck at the hip in terms of values. They should have complementary skill sets, but they must be aligned by values because it's a team sport at the end of the day, right? Like I said, the real test is when things are going bad, are they willing to stick it through, right? That's a sort of camaraderie and mutual respect that you want because when things are good, obviously everyone's enjoying.
Yeah.
And of course, what's the sort of product? Also, the last thing I would say is I like founders who are passionate about the problem, but are flexible about the solution. Sometimes founders are too rigid about, no, this is the only way, this is the right way. But in life, we all know it can't be, right? There are various answers to the problem. You've got to be flexible and you've got to let the market tell you your solution may be right, but may be wrong. And are you willing to be coached? Are you willing to change your ways, right? And this is true with sports people, right? You may succeed from one stage to at an early stage with a particular batting stance. But as you get older, as your reflexes drop, you may have to change your stance. So that flexibility and coachability and having an open mind also sort of matters. So it's these softer sides that, at the early stage, there's no hard science. You can't know it through a PowerPoint deck. You have to sort of meet them, spend some time to get a sense, and you've got to trust your gut before you play that shot.
I think very very well put in, and I think as you are giving the analogy to the sports, I think it's a game. If it's better to be game of skill than game of chance. Yeah, and so that's the difference between the way we talk about betting and fantasy, right? So Dream 11 talks about building a team and thinking that you are also dimag se dhoni, sab log hai dimag se dhoni. So I think that is better than just going blind with it. I think it's a very good analogy that you put in about giving the sports as an example about what they look at. I think fundamentally team becomes the most important part in the whole thing, and do they believe in each other? Do they stick together? Kind of thing. So I think any entrepreneurs or the budding guys who are looking for it, I think get the right person to partner with. I think more than because everybody's sitting on $1 billion idea the way they think. but I think the part is the way you execute and with whom do you execute. I think that is what is very
Absolutely.
crucial, and I think you put it that very well. So while we are on the topic of entrepreneurship, I'll just take a couple of more questions. I'll ask a couple of more questions to you. Is like uh, first we spoke about how do you invest, and now I'm talking about suppose you've been a part of a successful exit. So in that process, how do you stay focused in the acquisition talk? If people are looking for exit, it could be a good exit, it could be a slum sale, or it could be a very or any kind of thing. But I think it's very important for entrepreneur to be focused about what is best in for them and their team. So how do you think that some of things that you can come up with or think of?
Yeah, certainly. No, I think firstly we got to understand the context of an exit. What does it mean? And more importantly, why? If the why is clear, I think the hows and the what sort of follow, right? So first things first, I must clarify that today in India, or for that matter in America or Southeast Asia, the milestones, the general media talks about two basic milestones: fundraised and exit, right?
Yeah.
Which is fine, but as an entrepreneur, as a business, that shouldn't be your motivation, because the real journey is between that fundraise and exit, right? If that's all you're looking for, nothing wrong. All I'm saying is it will be hard, because the real tough journey is that, like you said, the partnership at the start of the game to the end, right? You can't be talking about the toss and the end of the match. Everyone wants to win, but it's about that process and that journey.
Yeah.
It's a bit philosophical, but I've really learned it to be true. Secondly, today we talk about startups, but I must put it out there that look, any business, whether you're a chai wala, whether you're a Dream 11, whether you're a salon or a barber, a business ultimately operates on a formula: profit equal to revenue minus cost.
Yeah.
And I have the utmost respect for any business person, because it's starting it is hard. As a business, you're taking risk, you're creating jobs, you're weathering economic storms. And today, our Indian media gives a lot of hype to the venture-backed startups, the unicorns. But for a second, I think to anyone listening, you've got to be very respectful that the chai wala or the barber perhaps is a better businessman because he or she is making cash and profits,
Yes.
right? So it's very important not to get swayed by the hype of कि अरे मेरे को pitch deck बनाने का है, मेरे को पैसा उठाने का है, मेरे को unicorn बनना है. Unicorn, sure, but if tomorrow you just want to run a simple sports shop selling sports merchandise, you're equally good business as long as you're making cash flow and you're cash flow positive and you're profitable, right? And I say this because I've only run a services business which is based on profit and cash flow, because I had no funding, no loan. I sell a service, I get money, I pay my bills, and hopefully I'm profitable, right? Now, having said that, if you want to be in the product business, yes, you can raise money from angels, you can raise money from venture capital. That's a skill. In fact, if you're going down that path, yes, there you are looking for hockey stick growth. There you're looking to scale fast. And they say there are three skill sets that and I'll summarize it as 3 R's. You're trying to be good at raising, you're trying to be good at racing against competition, and you're trying to be good at removing competition, right? So this is a typical 3 R's. If you're playing the product game, you're racing against time, you want to grow quickly, you want to be a unicorn. And obviously, if you've taken someone else's money, he or she will want an exit because there is no free lunch. So now let's talk about the exit, right? Of course, our exit was in services. There were no investors. But in either case, the first question is, why do you want to exit? Now, in our case, as a service business, to be honest, we never started to, or we never planned to have an exit. It happened as an accident. Our plan was to, very honestly, we were inspired by the likes of Infosys, TCS, Wipro. In 30 years, 40 years, you can build a $100 billion company, pure services. That was our game. But when something came our way, for 2 years, we sort of mulled over it. We were naive, we were confused. We went through that song and dance. And
Yeah.
eventually we realized that the why for us was we wanted to become one of the top digital marketing companies in Southeast Asia. And we felt by exiting with Merkle and Dentsu, we could scale that ambition quickly. So there were two honest motivations. One was to scale and accelerate our growth because it's a fairly competitive environment. And the second, I'll be honest, was, it gives us a good liquidity event personally, because for, 12 years, we have taken very little salary. We have not sort of made much money. We have not made any other investments. Money went into the company. So we said, what, if the value is good, it helps us. It definitely makes us comfortable, certainly, right? So the why was clear. In the case of product companies, typically there's a trade sale or an IPO or another competition sort of buys you out. But have your why clear. Don't start it for the exit, but if you have your why clear, if it's personal goals, if it's scaling up, if it's acceleration, if it's acquiring, being part of a larger umbrella or having access to technology, just be clear of that. The other thing that I'll say philosophically, what we learned the hard way during our acquisition is you should sell when you don't have to sell.
Yeah.
Because like they say, the best salesman or the best saleswoman is someone who does not sell. It's someone who people buy from. The end result is a transaction, but someone who is the Eureka Forbes door-to-door seller, a lot of respect, but you're an active hard seller. But you want to be an Apple where people are queuing up to buy from you and willing to pay you more money, right?
Yeah.
So you've created a brand, a demand where people want to queue to give you money, right? How wonderful a situation, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to create demand for your business, real demand and virtual marketable demand, so that people are chasing you for deals. People are like, boss, they're queuing up to say, I want to buy your company or I want to invest, right? And there's a whole art and science to doing that. Then I think once you've had the why, once you've created that core product, revenue base, perception and brand around it, I think, you are obviously in a strong position where you can negotiate strongly, right? So keep time at your hand. There doesn't have to be a distress sell. You don't have to be desperate about it. And, I think in the sales process, I think what's important, the other two things to remember during that negotiation process is there is the buyer side, your advisors might say, oh, this is industry practice, this is valuation, these are the usual clauses. If you're in a strong position, know that nothing is sacrosanct. You can negotiate whatever that you want, right? It is like Sachin dictating terms on the pitch, whether it's Shane Warne or someone else. If he's strong, if he has the confidence, he will make the bowler bold according to you, right? You want to be in that position. So you've got to be able to dictate terms. And of course, hence you've got to be Sachin. Hence you've got to have that skill set, practice, etc., that comes with it. Right. So negotiating is important because these moments are once or twice in a lifetime. You've given 10, 12, 15 years. Your team has given, your families have sacrificed. So don't be in a rush. Take time, be in that position, have a strong negotiating power. And the last thing is have good advisors. Like one thing we were really blessed is to have a very good iBanker who helped create our pitch deck. She took us to multiple different kinds of buyers. She took us through the negotiation process. So one good iBanker and one good lawyer, because deal structuring, finance, law, they were not our strong suites. We were marketers, we were business folks. It really helped us having that expert advice, just the way having a Gary Kirsten or a John Wright or anyone in your support structure matters. It is the same. You've got to know what you're good at, what you're not. You need support, and let no one disillusion you, or don't sort of cut corners. Ki nahi, yahan paisa bachate hai. That advice, I can tell you this much, without going into details, that A, without them the deal would not happen. Period. B, from where we initial buying price to where we ended up, it was 3x because of their advice, right? So again, going to sports, build that strong, dictate terms in a meaningful manner. Don't be under pressure. Don't sell when you don't have to sell, and get good legal and financial advice.
Nice. I think that's what we got to see in Gujarat Titans this IPL.
Yeah, Ashish Nehra's, fabulous job apart from everyone else.
Yeah, Ashish, and nobody expected Hardik Pandya to bounce back this way. And I think the Gary Kirsten sitting in dugout was the difference. When you say, as you said, the advisor is important, right? So the Gary Kirsten sitting in the dugout was pretty crucial. So Prantik, one really different small question that I want to understand from you. It's not a small question actually, but it's the world is moving toward being conscious, and I think in the last 2 years of COVID has taught us something, that you be human and be conscious, and if you have an opportunity, give back. So we see so many so-called or those unicorns, or so many people investing or generating so much fund. How do you actually leverage fundraiser to create a positive social impact and something that you can give back? And how, as a marketeer, how do you think that actually helps you back?
Yeah, wonderful question. I'll share some personal anecdotes. And I think, firstly, it has to come from the heart. Like you said, the word is conscious capitalism. The word is, you should do this for the greater good, right?
Yeah,
But at the same time, I genuinely believe that for this to be sustainable,
sustainable.
it can't be a charity, right? I'm a genuine, a book that changed my life was, uh, you know, uh, it's called Profit at the Bottom of the Pyramid by C.K. Prahlad, written maybe a couple of decades ago, where he said, and there's another book written by an IIM professor, which is called, I think, We Are Like This Only. And both these books allude to the fact that whether you're a rich person or a very, very poor person, everyone has ambitions, everyone has desires. As they say in Dharavi, in this book, We Are Like This Only. In Dharavi, if you go, you think they are very poor. Yes, they may be, but they have aspirations. They have the same aspirations for a good TV, a good fridge, etc. Right? And the reason I bring this up is because there is a lot that you can do, but this has to be commercially viable for
Yeah,
this to be sustainable. Otherwise, it feels as though you're going with a begging bowl to do good. That is a approach. But today, there are so many good examples at the corporate level, whether it's the Tatas, the Mahindras, or you have organizations like the Magic Buses who are using sports as a vehicle to sponsor, to support, to do so many things, right? And to me, sports is a fantastic vehicle to not just, as they say, give fish, but teach you how to fish, right? Today, imagine you create, whether it's, in India, thankfully you have the law where 2% from your profit can be sort of invested into, and, the organizations like OGQ or what Nandan Kamath is doing, it's fabulous, right? You can take that and put that into the right structure in a sustainable manner. Recently, last Friday, the gentleman Matthew from Magic Bus was here, and we were talking about it, right? How can you? He's done this for 22 years, right?
yeah,
How do we get corporate sponsorship? How do we get individual donor sponsorship? And so, conscious capitalism is absolutely necessary. Everyone has to play a part. B, it can't and shouldn't be a charity begging bowl. It has to be institutionalized by all stakeholders, government, corporates, employees. And to your question, marketing, I mean, absolutely critical, because you see, what is marketing's role? Marketing's role is to sort of share good stories and to change behavior, right? That, to me, at the end of the day, whether digital, TV, doesn't matter. And again, sports is a beautiful avenue or vehicle, because sports is one of those rare content which is not scripted, it's live,
yeah,
right? Sports is a platform where you can, unearth talent, like, let's say, a Yashasvi Jaiswal who has struggled and come up, right? Those rags to riches stories will give goosebumps to anyone, whether you love cricket or not, right? It's about giving a equalizer opportunity. You look at Paralympics, you look at Olympics, right? You look at today, badminton, you look at today, high jump. Today, India has so many great stories of people from, non metros making their way up, right? And these are great marketable stories. And if you use them well, that will drive this sort of, institutionalized corporate giving, or, as you said, conscious capitalism. And I'll give you a small example. So my wife and I, during COVID, we sort of ran a couple of fundraisers, to your question, using a crowdfunding platform called Mila, right?
yeah,
And to us, there were two options. I could quietly, anonymously donate and let go. But I said I could do that, but I'm not utilizing my network, my marketing capability. So we said what we'll do is we'll create a movement. We'll be catalyst and channelize our network and our bandwidth and our capability. So what started as, as an individual, let's say I could give $1,000 as an example.
yeah,
But we said on Milap, what we'll do is we'll start a dollar for dollar matching program. So if you give $1, I will match it, right? And we said as much as possible, we were requesting people to not go anonymous, because I know some people like to do it, but to me, it's not about showing off. To me, if Sid Deshmukh gives $1 and Prantik matches, hopefully 10 of my friends will come, 10 of your friends will come, right? So if I share these stories, the power of marketing is not to show off, but to share these stories to influence. So
right.
what happened? Year one, we managed to raise $100,000, right?
Wow.
50,000, 50,000. Year two, when things got even worse, right, in Delhi, Bombay, with the oxygen meter, all that, we said, you know what, we'll increase the stakes. But what was beautiful is, because people had seen us do this, a few other entrepreneurs came, you know what, if you are doing 1:1, we will add 1:1 from our side, right?
Nice.
So it
Okay.
became 1:1:1, so three. right? So there's a multiplier effect. Eventually it became 1:4, right? So for every dollar Sid gave, Prantik gave one, someone else gave one, someone else gave one, right? So the power multiplied. So marketing in digital can give you the power of scale to multiply. And you'll be happy to hear what it led to was. So I'm part of this organization called TIE. TIE is big in the US
Correct.
and India, of course, right? So TIE saw this and said, wow, if a husband wife could, because in Singapore, thankfully, the media covered it because obviously it was such a poignant and
Right.
trying time. Media covered it. So, we were very lucky to get a lot of donors and sponsors. But TIE said if an individual could do this, imagine what TIE can do at an organization level. So I sort of gave them a blueprint and then we collectively said, you know what, let's take it big. So then in 9 days, you won't believe, we went to the one of the founders of TIE, Vinod Khosla, who's
The
obviously,
coastline.
co-founder of Sun. He runs Khosla Ventures. He says, you know what, TIE, if you can raise $1 million in a week, I'll match it by $1 million. So what I was doing at a very small level, he said, obviously he's a massive gentleman, a big heart. We then someone else said, wow, why can't we bring sports and culture to this? We got in Lara Datta, we got in Shamal Vallabhji, who works with a lot of IPL teams and as a personal coach. And eventually last year May we had this massive virtual event which had right from Amitabh Bachchan to Abhishek Bachchan to R Ashwin to so cricketers and Bollywood, right? The two things that sort of evoke emotion amongst Indians. We had a day long, we had a sort of an evening long virtual event where people could watch the event, hear their plea, and donate online. And we partnered Give India. Atul has done such a wonderful job. So collectively, with Vinod Khosla's money and this TIE initiative through Give India and the Bollywood stars and cricketers, we managed to raise about 3.4 million USD, right?
Wow.
So, but the point is not the money. The point is the spark or the ripples of change an individual can create, right? To your question, what can marketing do? So my plea to everyone is, all of us have some capacity, 1 rupee, 10 rupee. You have to start and you have to be a catalyst. You have to start a movement. And I can't find, and when I juxtapose that with sports is a brilliant medium because it gives us stories, it inspires us. So if I can combine the power of sports and marketing to channelize and motivate and catalyze movements, there is immense power to make change.
Excellent, Prantik. I think that is such a nice way to put a good cap of humanity and power of marketing together towards the discussion. I think I couldn't have asked for any better ending for the chat for now. I think we covered so many great aspects, starting with you as a cricketer at PYC, trying to follow the dream of wearing the blue. From there to the marketeer, and from having a successful exit to having your the journey of investing and giving back. And I think the Thai, yes, I've been part of Thai community in the US as well, and in Pune, and it's a great journey. Shamal is a dear friend for me, and he's been on my platform as well on
Oh,
Sportsy.
wonderful.
Yeah. So it's a great community. I think what you try to bridge the gap. I think it's wonderful. As you said, the sports creates about limitless or boundaryless relations. I think that is something really good. And finally, at the end of the day, use marketing to make a bigger impact. I think that's what makes a happy marketer, and that's what we got to hear from a catalyst, Prantik Mazumdar. I think it is great to have you on our platform. It was wonderful chatting with you, and hope to host you again in near future.
Thank you so much, Sid, and thank you to you, someone like you, for doing this and getting all these stories out and getting this content out. I'm sure it will influence not just students but business leaders and people interested in the power of sports to drive change. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you, and I hope to make a change someday somewhere with whatever I'm doing. So
You probably already are. So yeah,
yes.
thank you.
Thank you, Prantik. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking, and thank you for sharing. But please do subscribe on our channel, Sportsy Says, and help us spread the word about sports. We go with the same handle, Sportsy Says, across all the social media platforms and podcasts. Don't forget to click on the bell icon.